All right, y'all. We are live on this Monday afternoon. We got Frankie Joy Route in the house, and we have Boondock and Diva. So we are collaborating on a topic that's really near and dear to both of our hearts: female solo traveling and van life safety. So Frankie has picked a YouTube video that we're going to just discuss. And if you call in or if you join us today, we want to know, as a solo female traveler or male traveler, if you happen to join us as well, do you feel safe during your road trips, and why? Tell us why. Tell us what are, some of the things you do to make yourself feel, you know, at peace and on the road. Um,
Yes.
with everything going on in this world. So right, it's
Yes.
it's all about the mindset, but it's also being prepared. It's also about
Yes.
being prepared. Because sometimes we have things in our minds based on what we watched on TV or whatever, but the real life is different. Anyway, Frankie, tell us about the video you picked.
So I just picked this video. I used to watch this YouTuber, and her name, I believe, is Candace Love. And I googled, I put in the search bar looking for van life solo females, because even though men are welcome to join us, I know our emphasis is on, or not emphasis, but we are. It's important for us to share as female solo female travelers. It's important for us to share other solo female travelers, along with our safety tips. And so this one looked interesting, as did a bunch of others that we'll share in upcoming shows. So I just stopped on something and picked it.
Yeah, I remember watching this video from Candace Love, and she was
Hmm.
talking about being a cop, and I thought that was cool. I didn't know
Yeah,
she was a cop. So that, that definitely, hearing her talk about safety,
she's
some of
bringing
the,
it from two perspectives. Yeah, as a woman,
yeah.
as a cop,
Mhm.
as a civilian, as an officer,
Right.
both. So do we want
That's,
to start it a little bit? The
yeah, yeah, yeah,
video.
go ahead.
All right. Do we remember how to start it?
Just click play
I don't see the play, but
in your browser. It's your browser is probably hiding.
mm-hmm.
So
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
the tab. There
I've
you
said
go.
before that I have 10 years military experience, 7 years as a police officer, that
Turn it up a little bit.
experience. So the given would kind of be that my safety tips would gear towards having weapons. And I want to start off and preface this video that that will be one of the last tips that I give, because we want to do preventative measures and we want to be active and not reactive. So if you have to pull out your weapon, if you have to show your weapon, use it, all of the other tips did not work. So we want to have so many things that we can do to prevent having to use the weapon that you never have to get there in the first place.
Hey
Allow
man,
the
I like that.
fear to be
Yes.
present. Many people message me and they're like, I'm so scared. I really want to do it, but I'm fearful. And one thing I will say about fear is we should honor that fear, because fear is there to protect us, is there to keep us aware, and just to make us mindful of certain things. It's never there to cripple us. However, sometimes it's not always our fear. Sometimes it's other people's fear that we allow to cripple us. So, have you ever been talking to your parents or your friends or watching TV and they're like, oh no, you're a woman, you shouldn't do this, or oh no, it's not safe, or it's so much going on in the world, you shouldn't travel solo? That's because they have adapted that societal programming that keeps them in fear. And
That's a very good point. You think about that.
Yeah. I like her first point though, where she says, you should have weapons, but we're gonna do preventative measures first, because if you have to pull out your weapon, that means everything else you tried in terms of prevention, for example, for those of you listening, is like, for example, if I'm traveling, I might put something simple, like I put a baseball cap in my windshield. Just sit it
Yes.
there. I sit it there so that people think that somebody that's riding with me wears a hat, and usually looks like a man's hat. But that's a preventative measure for any guy who's, thinking about, you know, approaching for mischievous reasons, right? So
Yes.
that's just preventative. But she's saying if you've done all the preventative steps she's about to explain, and they didn't
Then
work,
it's,
then
yeah.
you pull out your weapon.
Absolutely. And that's just like what we talked about, which was trusting your gut. So if you're driving, so like I know I don't like to drive after a certain period at night because as I'm moving through states or even cities, I want to get to, if it's someplace I've never been before, I want to get to that location, figure out if I'm just passing through. If I'm a, say I'm a, we're going to camp at a pilot. If I'm going to camp at that pilot, I want to know, I want to have that pilot scooped out in the daytime or before it gets dark and figure out, is this the pilot for me? So that's a
Mm,
preventive measure is getting to your location in time enough. Because if you have to pull up at your location at nighttime and you don't know if you, oh, sorry. If you pull up at your location at night and you don't know, you kind of, oh, I'm sorry about that. Um, Yeah, if you pull up your location at night and you want to, that's preventive in my opinion, because you're not just pulling up at the last minute where you got to be on guard. You don't need to pull it out if you've pulled up and you've checked out your surroundings. And if your gut feeling and based on what you know as a solo female traveler, if you're getting all indications that it's clear, that's also preventive.
right, right. And to that point, that's a really good point, because when you're deciding, okay, I'm gonna stop driving at 5:30 or 6:30 because it gets dark, in this area of the country. Um, you're gonna have that scoped out already. And when you're looking, also look for the ratings, right? That's one of the things that I look for up front, is if it's not over a 4.0, and I know some are like 3.8, 3.9, I might give it a go. But I usually go for like a Cracker Barrel or a truck stop, or one of those traditional, boondocking spots that have a rating of 4.2 or higher, or I'm sorry,
Okay.
4.0 or higher. But
Okay.
it changes, because sometimes you look at all the ratings and they're all in the threes, and you're like, oh my God, okay, I need to switch to something else, because
Yes.
I'm just not interested in staying in a place that's lower rated.
That's why it's important, like to her point, of your to allow enough time.
Yeah.
You definitely want that's to allowing enough time is a preventive measure. Then I like what she said about fear. Like a lot of times you're discussing your travel plans with other people to keep them abreast, but then they projecting their fears onto you. One of the things that I hear a lot is, but you're in a van and I'm in a house. I'm like, well, when you go to the gas station or you go to the grocery store or you go to a park, you're doing the same things that I'm doing. They said, well, yeah, I'm not, but I'm not sleeping in there. But things happen when you're just going to the grocery store or you're going to a park or you're going to a restaurant. You're doing the majority of the things that a person who is even, uh, I consider myself a mostly full time van dweller. 90% of the things I do are the things that everybody else do. 90% of the things I do are things that if I just gave up the gym membership, but if I go into a gym, if I go into a grocery store, if I go into a movie theater, if I go into a casino, whatever I'm doing during the day, if you just talked about a massage, if I go have a massage, I'm doing 90% of what everybody else is doing. So we don't, at least I don't project my fear when I'm saying, oh, you're going to get this massage. And
Hmm.
did you look around? So it's their fear. And it's okay. We know they're doing it because they are concerned for you. They're not just doing it to scare you, no pun intended, right? But
Yeah.
it's also their fear. They're projecting their fear on you. And they're worried about, and there's a lot of things our loved ones, um, I have vibration. Yeah, so I'm just saying. So that's. What do you think about that? That letting others project their fear onto you. Remember, it's their fear.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, because people can only speak to the experiences that they've had themselves.
Hmm.
So if their experiences have mostly been, let's say they haven't traveled at all, right?
Mhm.
They haven't solo
Mhm.
traveled at all, but they've watched all these scary movies about people solo traveling,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So then they can only speak to that experience. Even though they haven't personally experienced it, they can only project their personal experiences, and they haven't had any. So here's my thing. Once I realized that people project,
Mhm.
I just made up my mind that I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do. I'm
Yes.
gonna follow my bliss, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I'm gonna be careful.
Yes.
Safety,
Absolutely.
safety is first. Safety is important, but
Absolutely.
I'm gonna follow my bliss. So
Absolutely. And so again, we do realize that when they're projecting there or telling us to be careful, they're only doing it because they care about us and don't want anything to happen. But sometimes like their caring takes it to the level where it prevents you from following your blitz or doing something that you maybe done for years and you really know how to move. I mean, obviously anything can happen at any time, but it has become
and you
as
got to know yourself too,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Part of that dealing with projection, other people projecting, is the ability to discern your own awareness, like be aware.
yes.
So if I know somebody's projecting, but I know myself, when I say I know myself, I mean
Mm-hmm.
I know that the universe communicates with me a certain way.
Yes.
So if one person says, "Girl, you better be careful," da 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 da, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm planning this thing. Somebody's like, "You better be careful," and then let's say something happens just by a freak, just freak contact with somebody that don't even know me, right? On
Mm-hmm.
the street, and maybe they say something that has nothing. They don't know my plans. They don't know nothing about like what I'm planning to do. They just say something
Mm-hmm.
and it gets my attention. The
Mm-hmm.
universe talks to me like that. Does
Yes.
that make sense? So but it also talks to me in threes. So if I see if something happens like bam 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 three
Mm-hmm.
times in a row, like it gets my attention in that way three times in a row, then
Yes.
then I pull back and I'm
Okay.
like, let me recalibrate and reflect
Yes.
on what I'm about to do. So you
Yeah.
got when I say you got to know yourself, really know yourself, because when somebody's projecting, it could be a warning, it could
Mm-hmm.
not. Most times it's not a warning. Most times
Mm-hmm.
it's just their fear.
Yeah. And again, it is fear because they care for you, but it also is as you just said, you have three different ways that you know when it's time to trust your gut. And so while you do appreciate others' concerns, others' words, but sometimes people even with their words can be like a clarion horn, like fire and brimstone is
Hmm.
meant to just make you feel paranoid and scared. It's like I don't thank
Right.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, but it's like they're doing a lot and it's just making it's going overboard, you know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Let's look at a little bit more. Hold on 1 second.
We've rescued nearly 600 million pounds of surplus.
Let's turn that down. Try to skip it.
Even though I'm sure they're 100% happy for you wanting to do this, they're so programmed to be in fear that they can't even say, I'm happy for you, you should go do it. It's like word vomit. But aren't you scared? They're projecting their fears onto you. And if you aren't aware, you will consume that fear and then it will manifest in your reality and you don't even own it. They own that fear and you've allowed them to give it to you. So it's very imperative that you stay mindful of, is this truly your fear? Is your fear trying to show you and tell you something to be aware of? Or is this somebody else's fear who has emotionally projected onto you? So stay mindful of the fear, but don't let it control you. As I traveled the United States, I had a beautiful time, but there were a lot of huge lessons that I learned. And one of the biggest lessons was my planning as a Black woman has to be impeccable. And I want to be very clear that when I say this, that I am not giving a message to be divisive. but I am going to tell my story, and whoever that resonates with is who that's supposed to resonate with, and whoever that's for is exactly who it's supposed to be for. One of the biggest lessons I learned is to do impeccable research on the towns that I'm going into, or the towns that I have to drive by, or the towns that I have to sleep in. Not just the campsite. What I'm talking about is when I'm driving from one destination, and to get to the next city, I have to drive through all of those podunk back towns. And so I had an experience when I was going to Oregon to chase waterfalls. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
All
The
right.
second I drove into my campsite, I saw Nazi flags, Confederate flags. I also see Trump flags and American flags. Those, definitely didn't bother me. But the Nazi flags and the Confederate flags, those are clear racial signs that you are not welcome. And I have never been that terrified, that scared, that angry, that sad in my entire life. But I don't know where I am. I've driven for 6 hours today. The sun is about to go down. I need somewhere to go. And so that brings me to my next tip.
Well, before she gets to her next tip, where are we at? I gotta try to find you. I keep forgetting how to get back to our StreamYard.
Oh, it's two different tabs. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we'll just be going over to our I think it's this tab here. Um da, da, da. Okay. Are we on are we okay.
What we
So
start with?
I like how she said that as well. Like this is just her. Like anybody, like if you were a solo male traveler, your
Mm-hmm.
experience would be different than a solo female traveler.
Right.
Um, for whatever reasons, your experience would be different. So she's saying that this is not meant to be divisive, but this is just meant for whoever her. And I didn't even know. I do remember watching this a long time ago, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't remember what she said, but I do agree being mindful where you're at. Um, can you handle this for 1 second? Can you
Yeah.
handle?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to let it play, or can you handle it for 1 second?
I don't. Let me. I
Can you
don't.
talk? Can you just talk, or can you? I also want to.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. Yeah. I can.
Okay.
I can talk.
Okay. Go ahead. Keep talking. I have to be come right back.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So while Frankie's away, just on the topic of research, y'all. Research is a big one. One of the things I enjoy about traveling is not always knowing what my next move is. I like knowing generally, like the big picture. So in terms of research, I would encourage everybody to do a big picture research um, effort towards your next road trip. So generally know where you're going. So for example, the last time I drove to the Grand Canyon by myself, I knew I had a limited amount of days to get there, a limited amount of hours to get there. I wanted to meet up with some camping friends for a meetup. I forget what the meetup was, but it was really nice get together in Lake Terra. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, it was a really great meetup in Grand Canyon, not near the Grand Canyon, right? But it was in southern Arizona. Trying to think of what the name of it was. Anyway, so coming from Florida to Arizona is a long way, right? So when you think about the fact that you're going to be driving by yourself and you got to stay awake from Florida to Arizona, and you only got 3 days to get there. So I literally got off a plane coming back from South Africa with my husband, and I knew that it was going to be tight because I was jet lagged. I didn't have a lot of energy, but I knew that if I could rest for one day, about a day and a half, and my husband begged me to wait even longer than that. So I did. So I waited longer, so which means I had less time, even less time to get from Florida to Arizona. So I came up with just a big high level plan. And of course, it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but at least I had a general high level plan. So the research is important, especially when you have other factors like, you limited time, limited energy, limited drivers, right? So I would say definitely, definitely, definitely do a high level plan. And then within each day of your trip, you can drill down into the details of each day's plan. So I know, okay, day one, I'm planning to be, if I leave Florida, let's say if I leave Florida early in the morning, I'm an early morning person, so I could knock out 4 or 5 hours right away before lunch. I can be in Louisiana maybe um, by the end of the day, the first day. Okay, so in past Louisiana, maybe I'm in Texas. I don't know. It just depends. But I can knock out some hours. If I start in the morning, I can knock out a good 6 to 12. I would say six to, on the conservative side, 6 to 9 hours. I can knock it out if I start in the morning early. So it takes 33 hours to get from Florida to Arizona. So if I split that in three, right? 33 hours divided by, let me get a calculator real quick. 33 hours divided by 3 days. Nope. Yeah, 3 days. Let's say 33 divided by three. That's going to give me 11 hours a day. So basically that tells me 33 hours. Well, I could have figured that out in my head. But 3 hours to drive from Florida to Arizona, depending on which part you're going to. But that would be 11 hours a day for me. I said I could drive comfortably 9 hours per day. So that means I got 2 extra hours per day to make up for, and I don't have an extra day. So that means I got to add an extra hour per day. So anyway, just thinking about those little details up front is a high level research effort. So where am I going to be at the end of day one? Where am I going to be at the end of day two? Where am I? And all of y'all that are listening or that are going to listen have probably already done this before. You think about, when you have to go to a different, let's say you have to go to a conference for your job, you're planning, you're researching, you're planning ahead. And generally women are good with that. I would just say plan for the unknowns as well, as much as you can. Um, and yeah, I don't know if Frankie's back yet, but I think that's what Miss Candace Love was trying to say with the whole research thing. Like plan, be proactive about what you want to do with your whole road trip. Um, Let me see if I can share. Since Frankie's not back, I'm going to present, share screen. Candace Love, ex cop shares solo. Okay, let me see if I can get there. And I'm gonna have to remove. Well, no, I may not have to remove it. Okay, so y'all see my screen now. I'm just gonna type in uh, Candace. Let's see, Candace shares um, safety. See if we can get that to pop up. Okay, yeah, I think that might be it. So I'm just pulling up the video
Yes. Should have got a cart. Pair of pizza with your favorite sides for $6.99 each. Papa John's.
Good morning, YouTube family. Today.
All right, so we got it in place. Let's get to the point where Frankie was. I think she was talking about research. So don't let people project their fears. That was the first tip. Do the preventative stuff up front so that you don't have to pull out your weapon. But if you do, have it ready, right? Let's hear what she has to say.
A Black woman has to be impeccable. And I want to be very clear. One of the biggest lessons was my planning as a Black woman has to be impeccable. And I want to be very clear that when I say this, that I'm not giving a message to be divisive, but I am going to tell my story. And whoever that resonates with is who that's supposed to resonate with, and whoever that's for is exactly who it's supposed to be for. One of the biggest lessons I learned is to do impeccable research on the towns that I'm going into, or the towns that I have to drive by, or the towns that I have to sleep in, not just the campsite. What I'm talking about is when I'm driving from one destination and to get to the next city, I have to drive through all of those podunk back towns. And so I had an experience when I was going to Oregon to chase waterfalls. Don't go chasing waterfalls. The second I drove into my campsite, I saw Nazi flags, Confederate flags. I also see Trump flags and American flags. Those, definitely didn't bother me. But the Nazi flags and the Confederate flags, those are clear racial signs that you are not welcome.
Okay, I feel.
And I have never been that terrified, that scared, that angry, that sad in my entire life. But I don't know where I am. I've driven for 6 hours today. The sun is about to go down. I need somewhere to go. And so that brings me to my next tip is you have to do impeccable research on the spaces that you're going, and Google, look up what is the racial tension in this town? What is the racial history in this town? What is the population number? What does the population look like? Is this a diversified population? Because if you go into a town and you need help, and you have these clear flags that you are not welcome, who are you going to ask for help? That was the first realist experience that I've ever had.
So just to speak on that, I've gone through that as well. So when I was talking about earlier, I drove to the Grand Canyon by myself. Let's see, when was that? 2 years ago. I went to South Africa with my husband, came back home, got off the plane, slept for 2 or 3 days, got up, got back on the road with my moonshine Class
Yeah.
B, and drove to Arizona. So when I was driving through, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, some of these New Orleans, all these other little towns and whatnot, it by myself, I realized, oh my God, not only do I need to make sure my husband knows where I'm at and he can track me, like, um what's the app that I use?
360. Y'all have me using it's 360.
360, thank you. um and Life 360, so my husband knows where I'm at. He can see my van moving at all times. But also I realized I needed somebody else to know too, right? Just in case. And you hit these small towns, and I've almost ran out of gas and realized, oh my God, who would help me? Like, right, my husband would have to fly out here to help me, but I'm saying, who would actually help me? Right? I'm by myself. I need gas. And strangers are kind. They are. But let's just,
Yeah, yeah.
assume that, plan for the, what do they say? Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
And plan for the worst, prepare for the worst. And to
Yeah.
Fia's point, Fia is even though she's spontaneous and follows her blitz, she's definitely more of a planner or researcher than I am. I am definitely not I'm take the joy route. I'll go where I end up. But in that same breath, I do know that you do have to be conscious. You have to be aware of your surroundings, towns you're traveling through. I forget this lady's name on the video.
Kansas.
Yeah, like Candace, like she said, it's not that you're definitely being divisive, but there is a real. That's why the Green Book was created, and there are real experiences that you run into. I'm speaking for myself personally. I'm not speaking to Fia, for Fia, but that I personally ran into as a Black woman, like being ticketed or detained in New Mexico, something that I wasn't prepared for.
Mm.
And so you do have to be, and that's why it's good. And even though I'm not a researcher, that's why it's good to a certain point to do some research. Now I do some research, but following the joy route is sometimes dangerous. You have to sometimes basically do a little bit of planning. I was in where was I at? I think I was in California in San Bernardino Mountains. I was driving, I was taking the joy route, and I found myself too joyous up too high. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it wasn't. And so you just some planning is so you do have to do some planning, and you do have to be aware of your surroundings because you never know what town you're in. And to your point, Fia, after talking to you and What It Do DG, I did end up getting the 360 app, although I don't have it on, all the time. I do when I'm traveling. I do when I'm traveling now, and I have like my family. We're in the 360, and they're following me. But I think that people should get some type of app because your phone, if you don't have phone service, what good is they saying? I was talking to her on her phone service and she was in Tucson, and you're no longer in Tucson, Arizona. But the 360 app, it follows you. And I'm not, there are a lot of different travel apps you can use. So it doesn't have to be that name brand, it doesn't have to be the 360. But there are
Mm-hmm.
some apps that I definitely would recommend. And that's why, again, to our earlier point, get to where you're going. I know, and you're a heavy driver. I thought I heard you saying something about driving 11 hours. Maybe I don't know. I was in the other room having to let a delivery truck in, but me, a delivery person.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it is good to have like a stopping point, and especially if you're by yourself, because you want to know, okay, I need to know that for me, I can't see it dark driving, and I want to know where I'm at, and I like to be able to scope the location of where I'm going. So,
Right. Good point.
hmm
Good points.
definitely.
That solidified that my experience in traveling as a Black woman is not the same as anybody else's experience. There's another layer to safety that I have to be very aware of. There's another level of safety and research that I have to do to make sure that when I go into certain places, I have a full tank of gas already, even if I have to have an extra tank of gas in my trunk. Knowing how to do or fix your own tire, having
Mm.
AAA
Mm-hmm.
is huge.
Yes.
It's very important that the research is done thoroughly. And I know, if you're driving from state to state, you don't want to have to stop and do research on every little town that you're going to drive through.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of being aware of your surroundings is being aware of what you could possibly come in contact with. And again, this message is not to be divisive. That is just my experience. And there are a lot of women that follow me, and we have different experiences. And that is completely, actually, it's not okay. It's
Yeah.
not okay, but it is what it is. And until we get to a place to where our experiences can be equal, it is necessary for me to share my experience so other people do not have to experience what I experienced.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not, like you said, until we get to that place, and we're not there yet. Some people believe that we are, or they pretend to believe that, but they know that we aren't there yet. And so that's why it is important to share your experience, because you will get people, and people will tell you, people will reach out to you all the time. It might be a video you've done maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and people will say, hey, I'm coming through this area, could you give me some tips? And you think like, was I there? Because you don't even remember, but they want to know what can they expect. And I agree, you don't have to cross every T and dot every I, but to just do that broad overall research. Okay, I'm going in this town, and here's what this town is known for. Here are some, you could even put into Google, and if you do that right now, whatever town you in, just Google safe areas and you'll see what you comes up. And sometimes it's quite offensive, because what some people may deem as this being a safe area, some other people may not be deem it as this is a safe area.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to do meticulous research, but some research, just looking at the broad picture, not for every city you're passing through, but that state. What are these little small towns or city like? I don't know about carrying no gasoline in the car. That's dangerous in and of itself. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's dangerous. But I generally, when I travel, I do have two. I don't no longer use AAA, but I do have true two car services. So like the car service is on my insurance, and then another one. It was previously AAA, just
Mm-hmm.
because my towing service or my car insurance only allows to tow me for a couple of say 20 miles, and then if I need to go somewhere that's 100 miles, I want to be sure that that's covered. Also, what I found out is that if you only put a lot of people assume once you get told there, they can tell you $5,000, and they think you're stuck or you're not going to want to pay another couple of $100s to leave. And I've shocked a couple of dealerships like, hold on, let me call somebody, and I'll
Right.
call my different car insurance service, and I'll have a tow truck pick me up and take me somewhere else where my money is respected.
Mm-hmm.
So just have some options. Definitely have options, because all that glitters is not gold. You can hear how beautiful this place is. It's beautiful for who?
Mm-hmm.
Not beautiful for you. So that's one thing you got to think about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Point. Good point. Um. So we are. I know you got to head to your ball.
Take me out to the ballpark. Buy
I
me some.
got that song. Go ahead and sing, girl.
I can't sing. I don't want to have people crying in your ears.
Peanut. What is it? Buy me some.
Popcorn and peanuts. Yeah, take me out to the
Jack.
ball. Exactly. Cracker Jack. Exactly.
We
With a
never get
voice
back.
in it. Exactly. Exactly.
Ah. It looks like my Wi-Fi is getting a little unstable.
Let's
I
stay. That's
think
okay.
it's about the
Um,
rain. But I know
is,
you
is,
gotta go.
I do
So
have to go, and we need to pick this up. We're going to be doing this weekly, as
yeah,
you've told.
yeah.
We have four. We have a series of 6 shows planned, and
Mm-hmm.
so we're doing stuff behind the scenes to get it all together. But we want y'all to come back, definitely. Sorry, I had to had to step away for a minute. I could hear you in the other room. And you were
Oh no,
doing
you're
fabulous.
fine. Here's the deal. This is helping me because I'm getting ready to get on the road. I'm gonna ride my. Well, we're gonna see if I ride
Okay.
my motorcycle to New Orleans or if.
Narlands. I
Or,
know I may go down as well, not for the festival, but just because I've never been there. So we'll see. So you
yeah.
just, yeah, brushing up on some of these things that we know because we do it all the time, but just brushing up and looking at other videos, they give you other tips. So what they could do is drop in the comments section. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of your if you're traveling or if you're preparing to travel, what would
Right.
you like to know? um what would you like to know? Fia travels. She travels by a bike, by her RV van. um she jumps on a plane in different countries. I've also done that, but that's what she's done recently. So you might want to hit her up with some questions, and if I can answer in her comments, I certainly will. But definitely drop her some comments. And yeah, you stay on for a second when we do jump off here, but then we'll um we'll be back. We'll be back this time next week, right?
Thank you, Frankie, for all your wisdom.
Thank you for no. I heard you back there. I was like, look at her, girl, gone. You don't even need me. I said, she in there handling it. So we'll be back same time next week.
No, I don't like going live, but hey,
Yeah,
sometimes
and
you
it
gotta
helps. I
get
think the
the help where you
reward
can.
in it the reward in it is that the people who are helped, and I know people had to help me when I was getting started. Just by watching videos, I learned a lot. So it's time to pay it forward, and we're paying it forward. And we give
Mm-hmm.
you current
Absolutely.
information.
Absolutely. There's a woman somewhere sitting that's gonna watch this one day and be like, you know what? I think I can do it.
Exactly. I'm glad they told me that, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready to do it. To I'm ready for the challenge and adventure, and to follow
Uh-huh.
your bliss, and to follow your joy. Take your joy
Follow
back.
your bliss.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely.
All right, y'all. Until next
Yeah.
time, it may be next Monday, it may be next Friday, but we'll
No,
let you
yeah, we're gonna do it. We're definitely
know.
here.
We'll
We're
get better
here.
at announcing it.
You're stuck with us. You're stuck
Well,
with us. And
yeah, you're stuck
that's
with
a
us,
good
but we're
thing.
going to try to let you know ahead of time so you can join us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fia. Stay on for one sec.
Okay. All right.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye.